Hello students, today we will discuss about the topic geological time scale. Okay ma, shortcut lo we will call it as GTS. In examinations also they are asking about write about the GTS. Okay ma, geological time scale. In the geological time scales, mostly and predominantly four seasons are there. They are Precambrian, Paleozoic, Mesozoic and Cenozoic. In the different periods, in the different eras are there. Okay ma? Like this, in this picture, you have to observe everything periods are in here. So like this is a Paleozoic period and this is a Mesozoic period and this is a Cenozoic period. So in every period different types of organisms are found and some of the organisms are disappeared also. Few of them are newly formed and few of them are endangered. In each period we have to observe the new things. Okay ma? You have to observe this geological time scale table. First eons are there, next periods, next epochs. Okay ma? If you have observed in the Precambrian period, Proterozoic era, Archean and Hadean. Okay ma? In the Phanerozoic era, Paleozoic, Mesozoic and Cenozoic periods are there. Okay ma? In the different eons, different periods are there. In the periods, subtopics are there. They are epochs. Okay ma? But these are not only few days. These are million years. Each period carries millions of years. Each eons or each eras carries millions of years. Okay ma? First of all, eons, eras, periods and epochs. Like this. In this slide, you have to observe that finally in the last stage, human beings will be found. Okay ma? Human beings and few of them plants and some animals are found and human beings are using so many things, prepared so many instruments, so many vehicles and food preparation. This period is highly advanced period. Okay ma? Comparatively to Paleozoic era, at the end of the Cenozoic era, most of the development is there, as well as some species had endangered. Okay ma? So first, Earth forms 4.6 billion years ago. Earth forms 4.6 billion years ago. Next, 2.5 billion years Archean and Proterozoic era will be continued. After that, the period is entered into Paleozoic era. In the Paleozoic period, Cambrian, Ordovician, Silurian, Devonian, Mississippian, okay, Peninsulan and Permian. These are the sub-periods in the Paleozoic era. Okay, in the Paleozoic era, in the left side, you have to observe few of them are endangered and few of them are formed. Okay, in this picture, we are looking forward to some of the fishes and water animals are there. Okay ma? Next, Mesozoic. In the Mesozoic period, fossils are formed. Okay ma? In the Mesozoic era, Triassic, Jurassic, okay, Cretaceous. These are the sub periods. Each period is carrying some million years. Okay, ma? Next, the third one is Cenozoic. In the Cenozoic, Paleocene, Ecocene, Oligocene, Miocene, Pliocene, Pleistocene, Holocene. So, 10 years ago, the Holocene time is started. Okay. So, at the end of the Cenozoic era, human beings will be formed. So, what is the Earth time scale? What is the Earth time scale? The Earth time scale is the Earth forms 4.6 billion years ago, and it carries different eons, eras, okay, periods like this. So, geological time scale is a record of the life forms and geological events in the Earth history. Okay, ma? Scientists developed the time scale by studying rock layers and fossils worldwide. Some of the rock layers and fossils will be found. In the fossils, both the animals as well as in the plants. Okay, ma? Next, radioactive dating helped to determine the absolute divisions in the time scale. So, radioactive dating is helpful for the determination of fossils. Without the radioactive dating, we cannot observe the fossils in the earth crust. Most of the animals in the endangered stage. Most of the animals and plants formed like a fossils. Okay, with the help of radioactive dating, we had observed the absolute fossils. Okay, next, divisions of geological time scale. What I told is the first eons are there. Okay, ma? So, eras, Cenozoic, Mesozoic, Paleozoic. Next period. In the Cenozoic, Quaternary period, Tertiary period. So, start of the each period is in the million years ago, 1 million years ago. The flora and fauna, modern species of mammals, extinction of large forms such as mammoths, and dominance of humans. So, in the Cenozoic period, 1 million years ago, the flora and fauna is developed, that is, the modern species of mammals, extinction of large forms such as mammoths, and dominance of human beings. What we had observed in the tertiary period, that is 54 million years ago, the rise of birds and placental mammals had formed. In the Mesozoic era, 3 periods are there: Cretaceous, Jurassic, and Triassic. The Cretaceous period is 65 million ago, and the Jurassic is 145 million ago. The Triassic is 208 million years ago. What is observed in the Cretaceous period? The dominance of flowering plants and extinction of large reptiles and ammonates by end of the period. This will be observed in the Cretaceous period. And then what is the observations we had noted in the Jurassic period is reptiles dominant on land. Reptiles dominant on land. Sea as well as in the air, first birds, archaic mammals will be found. In the Triassic period. The Triassic period, first dinosaurs, turtles, okay ma? Dinosaurs, turtles. In the plants, the cycads and coniferous plants are dominant. So in the Mesozoic era, in the Triassic period, we look forward to plants. Those are cycads and conifers are dominant. In the animal side, the dinosaurs and turtles will be dominant in the Triassic period of Mesozoic era. And the previous was Paleozoic era. In the Paleozoic era, Permian, Carboniferous, Devonian, Silurian, Ordovician and Cambrian. These are the 6 periods we found in the Paleozoic era. Those are taking million years ago. In the Permian period, let's take 245 million years ago. In the Carboniferous, 286 million years of taking period, and the Devonian is 360, Silurian is 408, Ordovician is 438, and Cambrian is 505. What the scientists observed in the Permian period is radiation of reptiles, which was displaced amphibians as dominant group, widespread glaciation. In the Carboniferous, fairness as dominant plant group. Sharks and crinoids are abundant in this Carboniferous period. Okay, ma. Next, we look forward to Devonian period. In the Devonian period, age of fishes, mostly the freshwater fishes, was observed. Next, first trees and first amphibians were also observed in the Devonian period. And in the Silurian period, invasion of the lands by plants and arthropods. Okay, ma? Plants and arthropods. Next, the main thing is primitive jawless vertebrates had formed in this Silurian period of Paleozoic era. This is the main point which the scientists were observed. What is that? The jawless vertebrates. Coming to the plants, invasion of the land by plants. Okay, ma? Next period is Ordovician period. This is 438 million years ago. The appearance of vertebrates and cephalopods are dominant in this Ordovician period. Next, Cambrian period, it takes 505 million years ago. The appearance of the invertebrates, okay ma, invertebrate phylums and many classes, dominance of trilobites and brachiopods. This is about the divisions of geological time scale. eras, periods and epochs. Eras, periods and epochs. First, eons are divided into eras. Eras are subdivided into periods. Periods are subdivided into epochs. Okay, ma? Eons. Next, eras. Next, periods. Next, epochs. What are the four eras, ma? Pre-Cambrian. Okay. 88% of the Earth's history carried out by Pre-Cambrian era. Okay, ma? Next, Paleozoic era. This is an ancient life. We call it as ancient life. Why? Because most of the plants and animals are found in the ancient life, that is in the Paleozoic era. This is 544 million years ago. Okay, ma? And lasted 300 million years ago. Next, the Mesozoic period. This is called as middle life. Mesozoic period is carried as call it as middle life. Why? Because this is a taking middle position to the geological time scale. This is carried out by 245 million years ago and lasted 180 million years ago. So, comparatively to Paleozoic and Mesozoic era, that Paleozoic era ended 300 million years ago and Mesozoic is ended with 180 million years ago. Next is Cenozoic. This is a recent life. So this is taking 65 million years ago, started with 65 million years ago and continues to the present day. So we are what the era we are living is, that is the Cenozoic era. So during the Precambrian era, it covers approximately 88% of the Earth history. In the Precambrian era, the earliest living organisms were microscopic bacteria. Okay, microscopic bacteria. In the records, the scientist was observed 3.5 billion years ago, the earliest living organisms were found. Some 3 billion years ago, the Earth's atmosphere was virtually devoid of oxygen. It's through the final stage of Precambrian time were marked by the prolonged global ice age. You have to observe in this slide, few of them are bacteria, and what are the atmospheric conditions are in the Precambrian period. So in the Paleozoic era, that is called as ancient life. So the Cambrian period is the first period of Paleozoic era. So age of the trilobites. Age of the trilobites. In the Cambrian period is the first period of Paleozoic era. Okay, ma? So some of the invertebrates were dominant and fishes emerged during this period, and fish led to the arrival of the amphibians. సో మనం అబ్జర్వ్ చేయొచ్చు, ద ఆంఫిబియన్స్ స్టార్ట్ అవుతున్నాయని చెప్పడానికి ఏంటి అంటే ఫస్ట్ ఫిష్ ఫార్మేషన్ అనేటటువంటిది జరిగింది. సో ద ఎండ్ ఆఫ్ ద పేలియోజోయిక్ ఎరా ఈస్ కాల్డ్ ఇట్ యాజ్ ఏజ్ ఆఫ్ ఆంఫిబియన్స్. ద ఎండ్ ఆఫ్ ద Paleozoic era is called as age of amphibians. Why? The fish lead to the arrival of the amphibian. Okay, ma? Next, early land plants including mosses, ferns and cone-bearing plants were also found in the Paleozoic era. Okay, ma. The early coal farming forests were also found during this period. So, what is the importance of this period is this period is called as age of amphibians. Age of amphibians. So, the fish lead to the arrival of amphibians. If you come into the plants, the plants like mosses, ferns, and some of the gymnosperms like cone-bearing plants were observed in the Paleozoic era. So, at the end of the Paleozoic era, these were observed. So, we call it as the end of the Paleozoic era is age of amphibians. Age of amphibians. In the Paleozoic era, mostly the limestones. The limestones quarried for building and industrial purposes, as well as the coal deposits of Western Europe and the Eastern United States were formed during the Paleozoic era. So the Cambrian period is the beginning of the Paleozoic era is called as Cambrian period. So opened with the breakup of the world continued Rodinia and closed with the formation of Pangea. As the Earth's continents came together once again. The event is thought to have caused the climate changes that lead to the mass extinction event. In the Paleozoic era, what we call it as the period of the amphibian periods. Most of the amphibians are formed in the Paleozoic era. So, in the Paleozoic era, some of the fishes and cone-bearing plants, moss and fern plants were found. But what few forms will be endangered or lost or in the form of fossils. Those are at the end of the Paleozoic era, the largest mass extinction in the history wiped out approximately 90% of all marine animals species and 70% of land animals will be extincted. Okay. So the possible causes of the mass extinction event is lowering of sea levels when the continents were rejoined as Pangea. So next, the increased volcanic activity, ash and dust will be increased. So climatic changes were also increased. So in the cooler climate, okay, these are the changes observed at the end of the Paleozoic era. So in the Paleozoic era, fishes, moss, ferns will be formed. Some few of them species were endangered or extincted. Approximately 90% of the marine animals and 70% of the land animals will be extincted in that particular period. So the trilobites, these are the fossils which we observed in the in the Paleozoic period. These are the trilobites lived in the earth ancient seas, extinct before the dinosaurs came into existence. Okay, the Cambrian period is known as the age of the trilobites. Okay, ma? Age of the trilobites. These are the pictures. Okay, na? So brachiopods, marine animals that resembles clams. These are the early fishes. Early fishes did not have jaws. Some species of sharks were in the extent at this time. So jawless water animals. So this is the shark found in the Japan in January 2007. This shark was considered as a living fossil. This is a living fossil found in Japan in the January 2007. Coming to the plants, The early land plants, cone-bearing plants, like gymnosperms. Cone-bearing plants, in the first diagram, the cone-bearing plants, and the second one, masses, means bryophyta members. The third picture, ferns, these are the pteridophyta members. So gymnosperms, bryophyta members, pteridophyta members were observed in this period. So next era is Mesozoic era. This is the middle life. At the beginning of the era, the continents were joined as Pangaea. So Pangaea broke up around the middle of this era. Next, most important in this Mesozoic era is reptiles became the most abundant animals because of the ability to adapt to the drier climate of the Mesozoic era. So, skin maintenance, body fluids. Before this period, before this era, there is no character. But in this era, the main character is skin maintains body fluids. Okay. Next, embryos live in shells. Okay, ma. So, in the Mesozoic era, dinosaurs also very active in this era. Dinosaurs were very active in the Mesozoic era. First small dinosaurs appeared in the Triassic period, and the larger and more abundant dinosaurs appeared in the Jurassic period. Okay, now Mesozoic era is very famous for the dinosaurs. Next, the small mammals and birds are also appearing during this era. The mammals were very small, warm-blooded animals, hair covering their bodies. These characteristics help them survive in the changing the environment. So, in this slide, you have to observe the dinosaurs. So, Mesozoic era is the very important for the observation of dinosaurs. These are the dinosaurs. In the Mesozoic era, the main plant life of this time were gymnosperms, or plants that produce seeds but no flowers. Okay, ma? Gymnosperms shows the seeds but there are no flowers. Examples, pine trees. Flowering plants appeared during the end of this era. At the starting of the Mesozoic era, gymnosperms were formed. At the end of this era, the flowering plants were appeared. The Mesozoic era ended with a mass extinction event about 65 million years ago. Many group of animals, including the dinosaurs, also disappeared suddenly at this time. So, at the starting period, the Mesozoic era, dinosaurs were appeared, but the end of the Mesozoic era, the dinosaurs will be disappeared suddenly. Many scientists believe that this event was caused by a comet or asteroid colliding with the Earth. So, sudden changes because of asteroid colliding with the Earth. These slides show this colliding. Next, Mesozoic era mass extinction event. The asteroid and comet collides with Earth. Next, huge cloud of smoke and dust fills the air, blocks out sunlight, plants die, animals that eat plants die, animals that eat plants and plant eaters die. However, not all forms of life died during this event. Many animals that you see today are descendant from the survivor of this extinction event. These are the dinosaurs. These are the reptiles. These are the Mesozoic mammals. These are the Mesozoic plants. Flowering plants evolved towards the end of the Mesozoic era. Began about 65 million years ago and continues today. Climate was warm and mild. Marine animals such as whales and dolphins evolved. Mammals began to increase and evolve adaptations that allowed them to live in many different environments: land, air, and the sea. Next, grasses increased and provided a food source for grazing animals. Many mountains ranges formed during the Cenozoic era. Coming to Cenozoic era, growth of these mountains may have helped to cool down the climate. Ice ages occurred late in the Cenozoic era. As the climate changed, the animals had to adapt to the rise and fall of the oceans caused by melting glaciers. This era is sometimes called the Age of Mammals. In the Cenozoic era, marine animals formed algae, mollusks, fish, and mammals. Land animals like bats, cats, dogs, cattle, and human beings will be abundantly formed. Humans are thought to have appeared around 3.5 million years ago. Flowering plants were now the most common plant life. In the Cenozoic mammals, man learned everything. Flowering plants were common during the Cenozoic era. So life forms found in the each era is, you have to write a list of geological events found in the each era. All or must write down this list life forms found in each era. Next, draw the pictures of life forms with using colors. Okay. After the completion of this worksheet, make sure that you are putting in the correct block or not. Okay, ma. Thank you.